To the world, we looked like the perfect love story, but no one knew that behind our bedroom door lay a history of sick deception. I thought he was working himself to the bone overseas to build our future. Instead, his GPS tracker and chat logs revealed the truth. He was spending every night at strip clubs, feeding his darkest addiction. Now I'm standing here with divorce papers in one hand and his explicit chat history in the other. My hands are shaking as I decide which one to throw in his face first. But the questions haunt me. Why did he repay my loyalty and pure love with such a twisted betrayal? How could he look me in the eye, swear on his mother's life and live a double life for so long? What exactly did I find in that hidden archive folder that shattered my reality? And is there any way out of this nightmare? I'm Sneha, and you're listening to my story. Stay with me as we unravel the full, terrifying truth behind blind trust and the man behind the mask. I stared at the diamond on my ring finger. It was heavy, obnoxious, and caught the light in a way that was supposed to make other women jealous. In the dim light of my Toronto apartment, though, it didn't look like a symbol of love. It looked like a shackle, a very expensive, very shiny handcuff. I'm 23. I have a degree framed on the wall, a face that turns heads when I walk into a room, and a life that on paper looks envious. I've always been the girl with the plan, the girl who colour-coded her study notes, who never stayed out too late, who saved herself for the one. I was the protagonist of a story that was supposed to have a happy ending. But looking back now, I realise I wasn't the protagonist at all. I was just the prey. It started innocently enough, or so I thought. His name is Mark, 3 years older than me. We went to the same high school, but we existed in different stratospheres. I was the honour roll student, the girl in the front row. He was the guy barely scraping by, the one who dropped the books after graduation and vanished. He didn't go to college. He went overseas, Dubai, the Middle East, somewhere where the sun is hot and the money flows if you're willing to get your hands dirty in construction and logistics. I didn't think about him. Not once, not until the messages started coming. By then, he had reinvented himself. The dropout was gone. In his place was a man posting photos of skylines, luxury cars and thick watches. He slid into my DMs with the confidence he never had back in school. I've watched you since we were kids, he told me during one of our first calls. His voice was smooth, practiced. You were always the dream, Sneha, the one I couldn't reach. It's intoxicating to hear that, isn't it? To be told you're someone's obsession, they're one that got away, even if you never knew they were chasing you. But I wasn't stupid. I had standards. I wanted a partner who could challenge me intellectually, someone with a corporate career, someone who understood the nuances of the world I lived in. Mark was rough around the edges. He had money, sure, but he lacked the depth I crave. I rejected him. I'm sorry, Mark. I had typed, my fingers hovering over the send button. I just don't think we're a match. That should have been the end of it. In a normal story, the guy takes the hint and moves on. But Mark didn't move on. He moved in. He didn't attack me. He besieged me. He knew he couldn't win me over with logic, so he went for the emotional jugular. He reached out to my extended family. He sent gifts to my relatives. He charmed my cousins. He created an echo chamber where everywhere I turned, someone was saying, he's crazy about you, Sneha. Look at what he's achieved. He's willing to do anything for you. He played the unworthy card perfectly. I know I'm not educated like you, he'd say, his voice cracking just enough to sound vulnerable. I know I'm not good enough, but no one will worship you the way I will. I just want the chance to treat you like a queen. I was 21. I was naive. I mistook obsession for passion. I mistook manipulation for devotion. And then he announced he was coming to Canada. The build-up was frantic. My phone would buzz incessantly. Messages about how nervous he was, how he was counting the seconds. When we finally met, the air shifted. He wasn't the awkward boy from high school. He was assertive. He commanded the space. He looked at me with a hunger that I, in my innocence, interpret as love. We went on exactly one date. 2 days later, the trap snapped shut. We were at a family gathering, one he had orchestrated. The room was filled with laughter, the smell of spices, and the warmth of people who thought they were witnessing a fairy tale. Suddenly, the music stopped. Mark was on one knee. It was a blur. The ring, the cheers, the pressure. Everyone was looking at me, smiling, clapping. My brain was screaming, wait, this is too fast. You don't know him, but my heart was overwhelmed by the sheer scale of his performance. How could I say no to a man who had flown across the world just for this moment? How could I reject someone who looked at me like I was a deity? I said yes. If the engagement was fast, the wedding was a sprint. We were married within a week, 7 days. That's all it took to sign away my freedom. It was a whirlwind of gold jewellery, heavy saris and flashing cameras. I remember looking at him during the ceremony. He looked triumphant and not happy, triumphant, like he had just closed a massive business deal. I brushed the thought away. He's just nervous, I told myself. He's just happy he finally got the girl. That night, our wedding night, I gave him everything. I need you to understand this. I was old school. Despite living in the West, despite having had long distance relationships before, I had kept that part of myself locked away. My body was my own. I wanted to give it to my husband. It was my gift, my vulnerability, my trust in physical form. I gave it to Mark. He knew it was my first time. He knew the weight of what I was offering, and he took it with an eagerness that felt possessive. There was no hesitation, no deep emotional conversation. He was satisfied. That was the word that stuck in my head the next morning as I lay awake while he snored beside me. Satisfied, like he had checked a box on a list. You're mine now, he whispered the next day, tracing a finger down my arm. It didn't sound romantic. It sounded like a receipt. For the next few weeks, we played house, or rather, we played the role of the perfect couple for social media. He posted photos of us constantly. #wifey, #my queen, #blessed. But in the quiet moments, the cracks started to show. He was guarded with his phone. He'd tilt the screen away when he typed. If I walked into the room unexpectedly, he'd lock it and toss it onto the couch, flashing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Just work, babe. He'd say, logistics is a nightmare. You don't want to bore your pretty head with it. I let it slide. I was a newlywed. I was busy trying to be the perfect wife, and I cooked, I cleaned, I dressed up for him. I ignored the fact that our conversations were shallow. I ignored the fact that he never asked me about my dreams, my degree, or my thoughts on the world. He only cared about how I looked on his arm. 7 weeks after the wedding, reality came crashing down. I have to go back, he said one evening, packing his Louis Vuitton duffel bag. Work calls, the contracts are piling up. Already? I felt a pit in my stomach. But we just started. I'm doing this for us, baby, he said, cupping my face. I need to make sure we're set for life. I'll be back before you know it, or I'll bring you there. Just give me a little time to set up the apartment. He kissed me goodbye at the airport. It was a lingering kiss, one meant for an audience. I watched him walk through security, turning back once to wave. He looked relieved. I drove home alone to an empty apartment that still smelled like his cologne. The silence that followed was deafening. For the first few days, we video called constantly, but then the gap started. He was busy. He was tired. The time difference became a convenient excuse. I'm working late tonight, babe. Don't wait up. He'd text. Just got in, crashing now. He'd send at 3 p.m. his time. I sat in Toronto, clutching my phone, trying to convince myself this was normal. This is what hustle looks like, right? He's building an empire for us. I'm the supportive wife. This is the sacrifice. But instinct is a funny thing. It doesn't need evidence to know when something is rotting. About 6 months into our marriage, 6 months of being a virtual wife, I went to a dinner party with some friends from our hometown who were also living in Canada. The wine was flowing, the music was loud, and people were loosening up. I was in the kitchen refilling my glass when the conversation in the living room dipped in volume. I heard his name. Mark, yeah, I heard he got married to Sneha. Crazy, right? I honestly didn't think he'd actually do it. I thought he was still hung up on. The voice trailed off as I walked back into the room. The silence was immediate, sharp. Everyone looked at me with those pitying, wide eyes, the kind of look you give someone who has toilet paper stuck to their shoe. Or someone whose house just burned down but doesn't know it yet. Hung up on who? I asked. My voice was steady, but my hand was gripping the wine glass so hard I thought the stem might snap. One of the girls, a distant cousin of Mark's, looked away. Nobody, Sneha. Just old high school gossip. Doesn't matter. It matters to me, I said, stepping closer. The air in the room felt thick, suffocating. Who was he hung up on? She sighed, exchanging a glance with her husband. Look, it's in the past, but you know about Jessica, right? His family friend. I know her, I said. What about her? They were together, Sneha, for 4 years. The room spun. 4 years? No, I laughed, a dry, humourless sound. Mark told me I was the first girl he ever truly wanted. He said he's been obsessed with me since high school. The girl bit her lip. He lived with her Sneha up until a few months before he started messaging you. They were supposed to get engaged. There was a huge family fight, something about dowry or status, I don't know. And she dumped him. He didn't leave her. She left him. I felt the blood drain from my face. He contacted you right after the breakup, she whispered, her voice laced with sympathy that felt like acid. We thought you knew. We thought maybe you were the rebound. I didn't hear the rest of the night. I drove home in a trance. My mind was racing, replaying every conversation, I've loved you for years, every tear he shed about how I was his dream. It was all a lie. I wasn't the dream. I was the replacement. I was the bandage he slapped over a wound that Jessica had inflicted. I got home and dialed his number. It rang and rang. Finally, he picked up. The background was noisy music, bass thumping. Hey babe, can't talk at a business dinner, he shouted over the noise. Mark, I said, my voice trembling with a rage I had never felt before. Who is Jessica? The line went dead silent. Even the background noise seemed to fade. What are you talking about? His voice changed. The smooth, loving husband was gone. This voice was cold, defensive. Don't lie to me, I screamed, tears finally spilling over. You lived with her 4 years. You told me I was the first. You told me you waited for me. Who told you that garbage? He snapped. They're lying. They're jealous of us, Sneha. People can't stand to see us happy. Jessica was a nobody. She was a slut, okay? She meant nothing. I swear on my mother's life, Sneha. I swear on my mother, you are the only one. He was so convincing. He sounded so angry, so insulted that I would even question him. He spun a web of words, gaslighting me, telling me I was crazy for listening to rumours, that I was disrespecting our marriage by doubting him. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. I was 23, married and alone. I didn't want to be the fool. So I let him talk me down. I let him soothe me with lies. But the seed was planted. That night after he hung up, I sat in the dark. I looked at the ring again. It didn't look like a shackle anymore. It looked like a price tag. I wasn't just a wife. I was a cover-up. But what I didn't know then, what I couldn't possibly have guessed, was that Jessica was just the tip of the iceberg. Jessica was the innocent part of his past. If I had known what was hiding in the digital graveyard of his phone, I wouldn't have just cried. I would have run. Because while I was crying over an ex-girlfriend, Mark was living a double life that was darker, dirtier and more depraved than anything my sheltered mind could comprehend. I wiped my tears. I wasn't going to be the victim. Not anymore. You swear on your mother's life, I whispered to the empty room. Fine, let's see what else you're hiding. I opened my laptop. I knew his email, and thanks to a glimpse over his shoulder weeks ago, I had a guess at his password. It was time to stop being the wife and start being the investigator. I typed in the password. Incorrect. I tried again, a variation of his birthday, and incorrect. One more try. The date of our wedding. Loading. The screen flashed white. Access granted. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I wasn't just logging into an account. I was opening Pandora's bot. And as the inbox loaded, showing a stream of notification sites I didn't recognise, I realised one thing with chilling clarity. The man I married didn't exist. The blue light of the laptop screen washed over my face, illuminating the tears that had dried on my cheek. My finger hovered over the trackpad, trembling. I had breached the wall. I was inside his digital life. I expected to feel triumphant and like a detective cracking a case. Instead, I felt like I was trespassing in a haunted house. The inbox was cluttered with the mundane debris of life. Shipping invoices, flight confirmations, bank notifications. But I wasn't looking for the mundane. I was looking for a name. I typed Jessica into the search bar. Enter. The screen blinked and then populated a list. Hundreds of emails. My breath hitched. The dates. I looked at the timestamps. They didn't stop 4 years ago. They didn't stop when he started messaging me. They didn't even stop when he flew back to Canada to marry me. There were flight itineraries booked for 2. Mark, Jessica. Dates that aligned perfectly with the weekends he told me he was working overtime on the site in Dubai. There were hotel confirmations for resorts in Thailand, invoices for jewellery sent to an address that wasn't mine. I opened one email from a year ago, right around the time He had sent me that first DM saying I was his dream girl. It was a forward from a wedding planner. Mark, here are the venue options for you and Jessica. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The air left my lung. He hadn't just been dating her. They were planning a wedding. While he was telling me I was the only woman he'd ever wanted, he was picking out floral arrangements with another woman. I wasn't the dream. I was the escape hatch. I sat there paralysed by the sheer volume of the lie. It wasn't just a deception. It was a parallel reality. He had built a life with her, a tangible, documented history, and then erased it in a heartbeat to trap me. My phone buzzed on the table. It was him. Seeing his name on the screen, hubby, sent a wave of nausea rolling through me. I stared at it, the vibration rattling the wood of the table, sounding like an angry insect. I wiped my face, took a deep breath, and answered, Sneha, babe, you there? His voice was casual, light, the voice of a man with nothing to hide. I know, I said. My voice was a whisper, brittle as glass. Know what? You sound weird. Are you sick? I know about Jessica, I said louder this time. I know about the wedding venue. I know about the trips to Thailand. I know you were with her while you were messaging me. Silence, a long, stretching silence that hummed with static. I told you, he said finally, his tone shifting from casual to cold. She was nobody. Why are you digging up the past? Who are you talking to? I'm not talking to anyone, Mark. I'm looking at the emails. I'm looking at the proof. I screamed, the control snapping. You lied to me. You said you waited for me. You said I was the first. You were engaged to her. Stop, he roared. The sound was so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. Stop acting crazy. You're looking at emails. You hacked my account. Is this what you do? You violate my privacy because you're insecure. Insecure? Mark, you lied about your entire life. I didn't lie. I protected you. He was pivoting, twisting the narrative so fast I could barely keep up. Yes, I was with her. Yes, we were going to get married. But I wasn't happy, Sneha. I was miserable. And then I saw you. I remembered you. And I realised I was making a mistake. I left her for you. Doesn't that mean anything? I blew up my life to be with you. You didn't leave her for me, I sobbed. She left you. Everyone says she left you. They are liars. He sounded desperate now, frantic. They are jealous of what I have now. They want to ruin us. Sneha, listen to me. I swear on my mother's life. I swear on the woman who gave birth to me. Jessica meant nothing. She was a mistake. You are my wife. You are my honour. Don't let these poisonous people into your head. He was crying now. I could hear the sniffles, the crack in his voice. It was a performance masterfully executed. I'm working myself to death here in this heat for our future, he sobbed. And you're sitting there tearing us apart over some ex-girlfriend who belongs in the trash? I love you, Sneha. Only you. Please don't do this. I sat there, tears streaming down my face, confused. His grief sounded so real. His anger felt like righteous indignation. Was I being crazy? Was I letting the past destroy the present? He was right about one thing. He did marry me. He was here on the phone with me, not her. I need the truth, Mark, I whispered, my resolve wavering. You have the truth, baby. You have me. I'm yours. Now, please log out of that shit. Stop looking for pain. Go to sleep. I love you. He hung up. I sat in the silence of my apartment, feeling small and foolish. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was being the psycho wife. Men have pasts. He chose me. Shouldn't that be enough? I closed the laptop. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him, because if I didn't believe him, I had to accept that I was married to a stranger. I went to bed, but sleep didn't come. I lay staring at the ceiling, the streetlights casting long, skeletal shadows across the room. The next morning, I tried to go about my routine. I made coffee. I opened a book, but the whispers wouldn't stop. My phone pinged. It was a message from a cousin of mine, Ria. She lived in the same city as Mark's family back home. Hey, Sneha, I heard you were asking about Mark and Jessica last night at the party. Be careful. I stared at the text. Be careful, not don't worry, not it's nothing. Be careful, I called her immediately. What do you mean, Ria? Sneha, I shouldn't be saying this. She lowered her voice as if someone might be listening. But my brother knows some guys Mark used to hang out with before he went abroad, and even when he came back for holidays. What guys? The kind of guys you don't bring home to your parents. Rhea said, look, the Jessica thing, that's the least of your problems. The rumour is the reason Jessica left wasn't just family drama. She found something, or she caught him doing something. Doing what? My grip on the phone tightened. I don't know the details, but people say he has habits, bad habits, nightlife stuff, girls who aren't girlfriends. Just watch out, okay? He talks a big game, but he's not who he pretends to be. The call ended, leaving me standing in the middle of my kitchen, cold despite the summer heat. Habit. Mark's words from the night before echoed in my head. I swear on my mother's life, he had been so convincing, but Rhea's warning felt heavy. It felt true. I looked at my laptop sitting on the coffee table. I had looked at the inbox. I had searched for Jessica. I had found the emotional betrayal, but Rhea wasn't talking about emotions. She was talking about habit. I walked back to the laptop. I opened it. I logged back in. He hadn't changed the password yet. He was arrogant. He thought he had talked me down. He thought I was the obedient, naive wife who would cry herself to sleep and wake up smiling. This time I didn't search for a name. I searched for patterns. I went to his sent folder. Nothing suspicious, just work emails. I checked his trash. Empty. He was careful. But then I remembered something a friend had told me once about how cheaters operate. They don't leave things in the inbox. They archive them out of sight, out of mind, but never truly gone. I navigated to the all mail tab, the archive. I started scrolling. At first it was just the same old stuff, but then I noticed a weird pattern. Receipts, hundreds of them, from apps I didn't use, Uber, Lyft. I opened one, a ride at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday from his apartment in Dubai to a location labelled Club 7. I opened another, 3:30 a.m. from Club 7 to a residential area that wasn't his. I kept scrolling. The timestamps were erratic, late nights, early morning, and then I found the payment confirmations. PayPal sent to Candy_22. Bank transfer to Lana G. Western Union to Natasha K. Who were these women? They weren't family. They weren't business partners. My heart was hammering against my ribs, a painful rhythmic thud. I was sweating. This wasn't Jessica. This was something else. Then I found the Google Photos backup link. It was buried in a promotional email he had forwarded to himself years ago. I clicked it. It auto-logged in because the browser trusted the device. The gallery loaded. The first few photos were innocent. Pictures of food, cars, selfies at the gym. I scrolled down to the dates before our wedding. The week he was in Canada. The week he was supposed to be preparing to marry me. There was a video. I shouldn't have clicked it. I should have closed the laptop and walked away, but I couldn't. My finger pressed play. The video was shaky. It was inside a car. Mark was holding the camera. He was laughing. There was a girl next to him. She was wearing barely anything. She looked young, maybe my age, maybe younger. She was leaning over, kissing his neck, giggling. Last days of freedom, bro, Mark shouted at the camera. I froze. Last days of freedom. This was filmed 2 days before he proposed to me, 2 days before he got down on one knee and promised me his eternal love. I felt bile rise in my throat. I gagged, clapping a hand over my mouth. But the gallery didn't stop there. I scrolled down, my hands shaking so badly I could barely control them out. There were screenshots of chat logs. Why would he save screenshots of chats? I opened one. It was conversation on WhatsApp. Mark, you available tonight? Need to blow off some steam. Contact saved as service 1. Standard rate, 1,000 for the night. Mark done. Bring a friend. I'm bored. The date on the screenshot, my birthday. The day I was sitting in my room waiting for his call, thinking he was busy working to buy me a gift. He was buying a woman. 2 women. I pushed the laptop away as if it were burning hot. I stumbled to the bathroom and threw up. I sank to the floor, the cold tiles pressing against my skin. The Jessica betrayal felt like a paper cut compared to this. This wasn't heartbreak. This was horror. He wasn't just a cheater. He was a consumer of bodies. He was a predator who viewed women as commodities, and I was just the one he put on the shelf at home to look respectable. I wiped my mouth and looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were red, hollow. The innocent girl from Toronto was gone. She died the moment she clicked that video. I went back to the living room. I didn't cry this time. The tears were gone, replaced by a cold, sharp rage. He thought he was safe. He thought he had me fooled with his mother's oath. He thought I was just a stupid little girl who would be satisfied with a diamond ring and a lie. He was wrong. I pulled out my phone. I didn't call him. I didn't text him. Instead, I opened the App Store. I needed to record everything. I needed to download every single receipt, every video, every chat log before he realised I had seen them. I was going to build an archive of my own, an archive of his sin. But as I reached for the mouse to start downloading, I saw a notification pop up on the screen. A new email just arrived. It was from a site called Adult Friend Finder. Subject: you have a new match near you. Near him? No. I checked the IP address location at the bottom of the email. Location: Toronto, ON. My blood ran cold. He wasn't in Dubai. The IP address was local. Mark was here in Canada. Toronto, on. The words on the screen pulsed like a warning beacon. My heart stopped. For a second, the only sound in the apartment was the hum of the refrigerator and the blood rushing my ears. If the IP address was local, that meant he wasn't in Dubai. It meant he was here, in this city, maybe even on this street. I scrambled off the floor, my legs feeling like jelly. I ran to the front door, checking the deadbolt, locked. I checked the chain, locked. I ran to the window, peering through the blinds. Down at the empty street below, a solitary car passed by, its headlights sweeping across the pavement. No sign of him. Paranoia is a shapeshifter. It turns shadows into monsters. Was he watching me? Was this a test? Had he flown back to surprise me or to catch me snooping? I rushed back to the laptop, my hands trembling so hard I could barely type. I needed to be sure. I clicked on the IP details again. ISP NordVPN service. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding, collapsing back onto the sofa. A VPN! Of course, he wasn't physically in Toronto. He was routing his connection through Canada to bypass the strict internet censorship in Dubai. In the Middle East, you can't access adult sites or certain dating apps without tunneling out. He was using a virtual private network to cheat on me from 7,000 miles away. The fear of physical danger faded, replaced by a renewed, icy determination. He was still in the digital realm, hiding behind layers of encryption and passwords. But he had made a mistake. By using a VPN on a browser where he had once logged into his Gmail, he had linked his dirty habits to his clean identity. I looked at the clock. 3 a.m. in Toronto. That meant it was 11 a.m. in Dubai. He would be at work or asleep after a night of partying. I had a window. The emails and the Google photos were damning, but they were fragmented. I needed the narrative. I needed to know who he was talking to, what he was saying, and how long this had been going on. I needed his social media. Mark was addicted to Facebook and Messenger. It was his lifeline. He curated his image there meticulously, sharing religious quotes, photos of us, motivational speeches about hustle culture. But I knew that every public platform has a private underbelly. I opened a new tab, facebook.com. The browser prompted me, log in as Mark. I clicked yes, enter password. My heart sang. The browser hadn't saved this one. I stared at the blinking cursor. I tried the password that worked for his email. Access denied. I tried variations, his mother's name, his car's license plate. Access denied. Come on, you narcissist, I whispered, engaging in a psychological duel with a man who wasn't there. What would you use? What matters to you? He didn't care about me. He didn't care about our anniversary. He cared about money. He cared about status. I typed in the name of the first luxury watch he ever bought, followed by the year he went abroad. Rolex. 2018. The screen loaded. The blue bar appeared. I was in. I felt a surge of adrenaline so potent it felt like a drug, and I was inside the control room of his life. The first thing I saw was his news feed. Normal, boring, a few likes on his friends' posts, but I wasn't here for the feed. I moved the cursor to the messenger icon. Click. The chat list dropped down. It was clean. Suspiciously clean. The top conversations were with me, his mum, his brother, and a few work colleagues. There were no mysterious women, no Candy_22, no Jessica. He was deleting them. He was wiping the slate clean every day. But Mark wasn't a tech genius. He was a street smart hustler, not a hacker. He didn't know how the back end of these platforms worked. He didn't know that delete doesn't always mean gone forever. I clicked on see all in Messenger. On the left side, there was a small gear icon for settings. I clicked it. A menu popped up. Message requests. Hidden chats. archived chat. My finger hovered over archived chats. This is where conversations go when you want to hide them from the main screen without losing the history. It's the digital equivalent of stuffing your dirty laundry under the bed instead of washing it. I clicked it. The screen refreshed and my stomach dropped through the floor. It was a graveyard, a sprawling, endless list of names I didn't know. Hundreds of them. Sonia Dubai Escorts VIP, Natasha Knight, The Gentleman's Club Group, Sarah Uni. I felt dizzy. The sheer volume was nauseating. I clicked on a group chat named The Boys in Town. It wasn't a group of friends planning a BBQ. It was a marketplace. I scrolled up. The messages were explicit, brutal and dehumanizing. They were sharing numbers of women, rating them. Mark, 6 months ago. Don't go to the one at the marina. She looks old. Try the Russian girl at the Jumeirah Hotel. I saw her last night. Solid 8/10. 6 months ago, that was right after we came back from our wedding. I scrolled further back. Mark, 2 weeks before wedding. Yo, can someone hook me up with a bachelor party spot? Need something wild before I get the handcuffs on. Friend 1. Thought you were in love, bro. Mark, love is for the family. This is for me. I need to get it out of my system before I have to play the good husband role. Play the good husband role. I read that line over and over again until the words blurred. I wasn't a person to him. I was a role. I was a prop in his movie. He needed a wife to look respectable to his village, to his family, to society. I was the good girl cover story that allowed him to live this filth secret life. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely control the mouse. I wanted to smash the screen. I wanted to scream until my throat bled, but I couldn't stop. I had to see it all. I clicked out of the group and opened a private chat with a user named Mistress V. The timestamp was recent, 2 days ago. Mark, I'm coming back to Canada soon. You still in Toronto? Mistress 5. I am, but my rates have gone up, honey. Mark, money isn't a problem. I just need you to do that thing you did last time. My wife is boring. She just lies there. I need a real woman. My wife is boring. The insult stung more than the cheating. I gave him my virginity. I gave him my trust. I did everything he asked. And here he was discussing my performance in bed with a prostitute, mocking my innocence, using my purity as a punchline to negotiate a price for sex. I felt violated. It was as if he had stripped me naked in a room full of strangers and laughed. I took a screenshot, click. I took another, click. I was working like a machine now. Screenshot, save. Screenshot, save. I was building a dossier, a weapon. Then I saw something that made me pause. A chat thread with his cousin, the same cousin who had come to my house to convince my parents that Mark was a diamond. I opened it. Cousin, did she suspect anything about Jessica? Mark, nah, I swore on mum. She bought it. She's naive, bro. She's book smart, but life stupid. As long as I buy her gold and tell her she's pretty, she won't look too close. Cousin, good. Keep her happy. Her dad has land in the village. We don't want to mess that up. I gasped. The air left the room. This wasn't just about sex. This was predatory. They were targeting me, my family, my inheritance. It was a conspiracy. I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead. I wasn't just married to a cheater. I was married to a con artist and his entire family was in on it. They knew. They all knew. The smiles, the blessings, the daughter-in-law treatment. It was all part of the con. I was suddenly terrified. I was alone in this apartment, thousands of miles away from him, yet I felt trapped. Who could I trust? Not his family, not our mutual friends. I needed to go deeper. I needed to know if there was more. I went to his settings and found the download your information tab. This is the nuclear option. It downloads everything, every deleted message, every photo, every location log that Facebook keeps on its servers. I click create file, request pending. It would take time, maybe an hour, maybe 2. I sat back staring at the screen, my mind racing, and I had enough to divorce him. I had enough to ruin him, but a dark curiosity was taking over. I wanted to know the extent of the rot. Suddenly, a notification popped up in the corner of the screen. Active now! Mark! My heart hammered against my ribs. He was online. Did he get a login alert? Did he see the download request? I froze, my cursor hovering over the log out button. If I logged out now, maybe he wouldn't notice. But then the chat window with me, my own profile, popped open. 3 dots danced on the screen. He was typing, hubby, hey babe, why are you awake? He knew. Facebook shows when you're active. By logging into his account, I had made his profile active, but he was also logged in on his phone. He saw himself come online. He knew someone was in his account. The 3 dots danced again. Hubby. And why is it showing that I'm reading my own messages? Panic, cold and sharp flooded my veins. I had been caught. I didn't answer. I couldn't answer. My phone, sitting on the table beside the laptop, began to ring. The screen lit up with his face. That smiling, handsome face that I used to kiss. Incoming call, hubby. I stared at the ringing phone. It sounded like a siren. If I didn't pick up, he would know it was me. He would change the password immediately. I would lose access before the download finished. If I did pick up, I had to lie. I had to out-act the actor. I took a deep breath, my hand shaking as I reached for the phone. I had to buy time. The download was only at 10%. I swiped answer. Hello? My voice sounded strange, hollow. Sneha! His voice was tight, suspicious. Are you on my Facebook? What? I rubbed my eyes, feigning sleepiness. Mark, it's 3 a.m. Why are you calling? My Facebook, he snapped. It says I'm active on a web browser. Is that you? I hesitated. Think, Sneha, think. I couldn't sleep. I wanted to see our wedding photos. I think I might have clicked the wrong bookmark on your laptop. Silence. He was weighing my words. You're on my laptop? He asked, his voice dropping an octave. Yeah, I said, trying to sound innocent, trying to channel the naive girl he thought I was. I just wanted to see your face, Mark. I miss you. Why? Is something wrong? I held my breath. Log out, he commanded. Right now. Okay, I said, my voice trembling. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to pry. Just log out, Sneha, and go to sleep. Don't touch my things. Okay, good night. I hung up. I looked at the laptop screen. Download progress. 15%. I didn't log out. He thought he had scared me off. He thought I was the obedient little wife who would do as she was told. I watched the percentage bar crawl forward. 16%, 17%. He was going to change the password. I knew it. He was probably doing it right now on his phone. It was a race. Me against him. The truth against the lie. I minimised the window and opened a second browser. I needed a backup plan. If he kicked me out, I needed a way back in, or I needed to find where he kept the really bad stuff. Because if the Facebook archives were this bad, I couldn't even imagine what was in the one place he thought I would never look, his trash folder in the cloud. I clicked on it, and there, sitting at the top of the deleted pile, was a video file. It wasn't a party video. It wasn't a car video. The thumbnail showed a room, a bedroom, our bedroom in the apartment we stayed in after the wedding. And there was a hidden camera angle. My blood turned to ice. He had filmed us. The video file was labelled simply home_check_01.mp4. It sounded innocent. Like a security feed to check on the pets or the front door. But the thumbnail didn't show a front door. It showed the corner of a bed. Our bed. The sheets were the white silk ones my mother had gifted us for the wedding. My hand was shaking so violently that the cursor danced across the screen like an erratic heartbeat. I didn't want to click it. Every cell in my body was screaming at me to close the laptop, run out of the apartment and never look back. But the truth is a parasite. Once it burrows in, it needs to feed. I double-clicked. The default media player opened. The screen went black for a second, then flickered to life. Grainy! Night vision footage. The angle was high, looking down from the corner of the room. I recognised the vantage point immediately. The smoke detector. He had hidden a camera in the smoke detector. The timestamp in the corner read October 12th, 11:42 p.m. That was 3 days after our wedding. In the frame, I saw myself. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, brushing my hair. I was wearing my nightgown. I looked happy. I was smiling at someone off camera. Then Mark walked into the frame. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking directly at the lens. He looked up, winked, and gave a thumbs up. A thumbs up. He knew the camera was rolling. He had set it up. He was performing. I watched in frozen horror as he sat next to me, wrapped his arm around my waist and kissed my neck. And I saw myself melt into his touch, trusting him, loving him. I saw the way I looked at him with total adoration. And then I saw the way he looked over my shoulder at the camera with a cold, predatory smirk. He wasn't making love to his wife. He was creating content. I slammed the laptop lid down, the sound cracking like a gunshot in the silent apartment. I couldn't breathe. I scrambled off the couch, rushing to the bathroom, dry heaving into the sink. The violation was physical. It felt like ants were crawling under my skin. He had stolen my privacy. He had stolen my intimacy. And for what? To watch it later, to share it, The thought hit me like a physical blow. The group chats, the boys in town. I ran back to the living room, the download. I flipped the laptop open. The screen was black. A small grey box sat in the centre. Session expired. Please log in again. He had done it. He had changed the password. No, no, no! I screamed, slamming my fist against the keyboard. I had been too slow. The video had distracted me. That was his plan? No, he didn't know I found the video. He just knew I was in the account. I stared at the login screen, taunting me. I was locked out. The door to his secret life slammed shut in my face. But then I saw it. In the bottom left corner of the browser, the download bar, Facebook mark-archive.zip. Status completed. It had finished seconds before the session expired. I let out a sob that was half laugh, half cry. He locked the door, but he didn't know I'd already looted the house. I clicked the file. It unzipped, spilling its contents into a folder on my desktop. This was it. The raw data. No interface, no profile pictures, just cold, hard HTML files and folders. I opened the folder labelled messages. It was a labyrinth, thousands of files. But unlike the Messenger app, these weren't deleted. When you request a data download, Facebook gives you everything that is still on their servers, even things you removed from your visible chat list. I started with the folder labelled archived_threads. I found a conversation from the day before our wedding. Mark, yo, send the location. I'm leaving the family dinner now. The bride is busy with henna. I have 3 hours. Unknown user. Club X on King Street. The girls are waiting. Bachelor special. Mark, make sure they are clean. I don't want to give anything to the wifey before I even unwrap her. Unwrap her like I was a piece of candy, a disposable object. I scrolled down. The timestamps moved into the months we were married, the months he was in Dubai and I was in Toronto. There were reviews, literal reviews. He was part of a private group, a secret society of expat men who shared information about sex workers. They reviewed women like they were reviewing restaurants on Yelp. Mark review. Natasha, Russian, 800 AED. Good body, but too clingy. Kept asking about my life. 3 stars. Wouldn't recommend for a quick fix. Mark review. Daisy girl at the marina. 500 AED. Cheap and dirty. Just how I like it. 5 stars. I felt numb. The tears had stopped. This was beyond sadness. This was a study in sociopathy. He wasn't just cheating. He was addicted to the transaction. He didn't want a relationship. He wanted a purchase. And then I found the file that shattered whatever fragile hope I had left. It was a chat thread with his best friend, the one who had stood beside him as the best man at our wedding. Best man. So, how's the married life? You bored yet? Mark, bro, it's suffocating. She's so innocent. It's annoying. She wants to talk about feelings and future. I just want to sleep. Best man. At least she's hot. And the dowry was good. Mark, yeah, the land her dad has is prime. Once we sell that, I can finally buy that villa in the Palm. That's the only reason I'm sticking around. She's an investment, bro. A long-term deposit. I stared at the screen. An investment. My love, my body, my loyalty. It was all just a down payment on a villa in Dubai. He didn't love me. He didn't even like me. He tolerated me because I came with assets. I felt a cold rage building in my chest. It started in my stomach and spread to my fingertips, turning my hands into fists. I kept digging. I needed to see if he had shared the video. I searched for video file extensions in the message logs. mp4.mov, I found one. Sent to the boys group. Mark sent a video. Caption, this is what I have to deal with. Dead fish. Miss you guys. And the real action. I didn't click the link. I didn't need to. The thumbnail was enough. It was us. In bed. He had shared it. He had shared our intimate moments with a group of men to mock me. To complain that I wasn't like the professionals he paid. I stood up and walked to the window. The city lights of Toronto blurred before my eyes. I felt dirty. I felt like I needed to peel my skin off. I wanted to shower. To scrub myself until I bled, to wash his touch, his gaze, his betrayal off my body. But a shower wouldn't clean this. My phone pinged. I jumped. It was sitting on the table where I had left it. I walked over slowly. It was a text message from him. He wasn't calling this time. He was done playing the confused husband. Mark, you think you're smart, Sneha? I stared at the words that the mask was off. Mark, you think a few emails and chats matter. You think anyone will believe you. You're a girl from a good family. You really want to drag your name through the mud. You want everyone to see the videos because I have a lot more than just chats. He was threatening me. Blackmail. He knew I found the video. He must have checked the logs and seen I viewed it, or maybe he just assumed. My fingers flew across the keyboard. Me, I have everything, Mark. I have the download. I have the receipts. I have the reviews. I have the proof that you are a predator. You want to talk about mud? I will bury you in it. I hit send. 3 dots appeared instantly. Mark, you have nothing. You are nothing without me. You're just a naive little girl I picked up to please my mum. Go ahead. Tell people. See what happens. My family will destroy yours. Your dad is sick, right? Can his heart handle a scandal? Can he handle seeing his daughter divorced and disgraced? He was weaponizing my father's illness. He was targeting my weak spots with the precision of a sniper. I felt a surge of fear, not for myself, but for my family. He was right. In our culture, a divorced daughter is a burden. A scandal could kill my father. Mark knew this. He had counted on this. He banked on my silence because he thought I was too weak to fight. But he made one miscalculation. He thought I was still the girl he married. He didn't realise that in the last 2 hours that girl had died. I didn't reply. I went back to the laptop. I opened a new folder. I named it evidence_final. I dragged the zip file into it. I dragged the video into it. I took screenshots of his threats. Then I did something I should have done months ago. I logged into my bank account. I needed to see the damage. I scrolled through the joint account statements. Withdrawal $500 ATM Dubai. Withdrawal $1,000 ATM Dubai. Transfer $2,000 loan repayment to a name I recognised as one of his pimp friends. He was draining us. The money he said he was saving for our future. It was going up his nose or into the hands of escorts. I checked the credit card. Maxed out. He wasn't just morally bankrupt. He was financially ruining me. I sat back, the weight of the reality crushing me. I was married to a monster. A broke, manipulative, sex-addicted monster who was holding my family's reputation hostage. I looked at the clock. 4:30 a.m. The sun would be up soon. The world would wake up and go to work, oblivious to the fact that my life had ended. But then another notification popped up on my phone. Not a text, an email. It was from the airline. Flight confirmation EK 241 Dubai to Toronto. Passenger Mark. Date today. I froze. He wasn't just threatening me from a distance. He was on a plane. He was coming here. He wasn't running away from the fight. He was coming to silence me. I looked at the flight time. He would land in 14 hours. I had 14 hours to pack my life, secure the evidence and disappear before the man who sold me to his friends walked through that door. I grabbed my suitcase from the closet. My hands were steady now. The fear was gone, replaced by a cold survivalist instinct. I wasn't going to wait for him to come home and gaslight me. I wasn't going to let him intimidate me with threats about my father. I was going to war. But first, I had to survive the night. As I threw my clothes into the bag, I caught a glimpse of the wedding photo on the nightstand. We looked so perfect, so happy. I picked up the frame. I looked at his smiling face one last time, and then I smashed it against the floor. The glass shattered into 1,000 pieces, scattering across the room like diamonds. Welcome home, Mark, I whispered to the empty room. I'll be ready. The key turned in the lock. It was a metallic scratch, sharp and deliberate, cutting through the heavy silence of the apartment. I froze. I was standing in the living room, my suitcase packed and hidden in the utility closet. I hadn't left. I couldn't. In the 14 hours since I discovered the truth, I had realised something terrifying. If I ran now without facing him, without securing my position, he would spin the narrative. He would tell my father I was crazy. He would tell his family I was unfaithful. He held the financial strings, the social capital, and the threat against my sick father's heart. I needed to look the devil in the eye before I banished him. The door swung open. Mark stood there. He looked normal. That was the most jarring part. He didn't look like the monster I had seen in the videos. He didn't look like the man who rated women like cattle in group chats. He was wearing a hoodie and sweatpants, his travel bag slung over his shoulder, looking like any tired husband returning from a long trip. He dropped his bag and looked at me. He smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator who knows the cage door is locked. Surprise, he said. He walked toward me, arms open for a hug. My body went rigid. Every instinct instinct I had screamed run. My skin felt like it was shrinking, trying to pull away from my bones to avoid his touch. He wrapped his arms around me. The smell hit me instantly. Airplane stale air, duty-free cologne, and underneath it all, the faint lingering scent of deception. I held my breath. I didn't hug him back. I stood there like a statue, my arms pinned to my sides. He pulled back, his hands gripping my shoulders a little too tightly. His eyes searched mine, not for affection, but for compliance. "You look tired, babe," he said, his voice dripping with fake concern. "Did you stay up all night looking at things you shouldn't have?" The gaslighting began immediately. He wasn't apologising. He was establishing dominance. "I saw the chats, Mark," I said, my voice shaking, but my eyes steady. "I saw the videos." He laughed, a short, dismissive scoff. He let go of me and walked to the fridge, grabbing a bottle of water. "You saw out-of-context jokes between guys," he said, twisting the cap off. "You saw locker room talk, and you blew it up into a drama because you've been sitting here alone and letting your imagination run wild. You're hysterical, Sneha." "I saw you with a prostitute," I whispered. "I saw you reviewing them." He slammed the fridge door shut. The sound made me jump. I saw a lonely man trying to survive in a desert while his wife lived comfortably in Canada, he shouted, spinning around. "Do you know how hard I work? Do you know the stress I'm under? So what if I blew off some steam? It's physical. It means nothing. You are the one I married. You are the one with the ring. Why can't you just be grateful?" Grateful. He wanted me to be grateful that he came home to me after using his body as a public playground. "I'm not sleeping in the same bed as you," I said. It was the only boundary I could articulate in that moment. Mark's face darkened. He walked up to me, invading my personal space until I could feel the heat radiating off him. "This is my house," he hissed, "and you are my wife. You don't tell me where I sleep." That night was the longest of my life. He didn't force himself on me physically, not that night. He was too tired. Or maybe he wanted to punish me with his presence. He climbed into our bed, the bed I had kept warm and empty for him for months, and fell asleep within minutes. I lay on the absolute edge of the mattress, my back to him, staring at the wall. I could hear his breathing, heavy, rhythmic. Every time he shifted in his sleep, every time his foot brushed against my leg, a jolt of electricity shot through me. Not the good kind, it was repulsion. Pure, visceral disgust. I felt like I was lying next to a radioactive object. I kept thinking about the chats. Clean enough, cheap and dirty. What diseases was he carrying? What invisible horrors was he bringing into these sheets? I pulled my knees to my chest, squeezing my eyes shut, praying for the sun to rise. I was a hostage in my own bedroom. The next few days were a psychological war of attrition. Mark acted as if nothing had happened. He woke up, demanded breakfast, watched TV, and talked loudly on the phone with his business partners. He was erasing my reality. He was betting on the fact that I was too weak, too culturally conditioned to make a scene. "You're lucky I'm forgiving," he told me over coffee on the second day. "Most men would have slapped you for hacking their accounts, but I love you. I'm willing to overlook your breach of privacy." He was forgiving me. The audacity was breathless. But the real torture began when the sun went down. Mark was a creature of the night. He couldn't sit still. By 9 p.m, he would start pacing. He checked his phone constantly. The screen was always tilted away from me, the brightness dim. "I'm going out," he announced on Friday. "Meeting some old friends from high school, just catching up." "Which friends?" I asked. I knew his high school friends. They were all married, settling down with kids, and they weren't going out at 10 p.m. "You don't know them," he snapped, grabbing his car keys. "Don't wait up." He left. I waited by the window until his taillights disappeared around the corner. Then I grabbed my iPad. He had changed his Facebook password. He had locked his phone. But Mark was arrogant. He thought he was smarter than me. He forgot that the car he was driving, the luxury sedan he insisted on leasing, was registered in my name because my credit score was better. And that car had a manufacturer's app. I opened the app. Locate vehicle. The map loaded. A small blue dot moved through the streets of Toronto. I watched it like a hawk. He wasn't heading toward the suburbs where his friends lived. He was heading downtown. To the entertainment district. The dot stopped. I zoomed in. King Street West. He was at a club. I sat on the couch, the iPad glowing in the dark, and waited. 11 p.m, midnight, 1 a.m. The dot didn't move. At 2:15 a.m, the dot started moving again, but it didn't come home. It went to a hotel. The Ritz-Carlton. I felt a cold hollowness in my chest. He wasn't just drinking. He was continuing the lifestyle. He was here in the city where I lived, where his wife sat waiting, and he was booking hotel rooms. He came home at 4:30 a.m. I was in bed, pretending to be asleep. I heard the front door open softly. I heard his footsteps, uneven and heavy. He stumbled the bedroom. The smell filled the room. Instantly, it was a cocktail of stale whiskey, sweat, and a perfume that wasn't mine, something floral and cloying. He stripped off his clothes and tossed them on the floor. Then the mattress dipped. He slid under the covers. He reached out, his hand landing on my hip. His palm was damp. "You awake?" He slurred. I didn't move. I forced my breathing to stay even. He moved closer, pressing his body against my back, and I could feel his hardness. "Come on, Sneha," he whispered, his breath hot against my ear. "I know you're awake. Don't be a bitch. I missed you." Missed me? He had just come from a hotel. "Get off me," I said, my voice sharp. I sat up, pushing his hand away. "What is your problem?" he groaned, rolling onto his back. "I work all day. I go out for a few drinks, and you treat me like a criminal." "You smell like her," I said. "It just slipped out." "Who?" "Whoever she was at the Ritz-Carlton." The room went deadly silent. Mark sat up slowly. The drunkenness seemed to evaporate from his eyes. He looked at me, and for the first time I saw genuine danger. Not just anger, but malice. "You're tracking me?" he asked quietly. "I know where you went, Mark. I know you weren't with friends." He lunged. It happened so fast I didn't have time to scream. He grabbed my wrist, twisting it painfully, pulling me toward him. His face was inches from mine, his eyes bloodshot and wild. "You listen to me," he snarled, spit flying onto my cheek. "You stop this investigator bullshit right now. You are my wife. You exist to serve me. You exist because I allow it. If you ever track me again or check my phone again, I will make your life a living hell. Do you understand? You're hurting me." I gasped, trying to pull away. "I'm protecting us," he shouted, shaking me. "You want to ruin this marriage? You want to be a divorced, used woman at 23. Who will take you, eh? Who will want you after I'm done telling them what a psycho you are?" He shoved me back onto the pillows. Go to sleep," he commanded. "And if you say one word to my family, I'll tell your dad that you've been sleeping around while I was in Dubai. Let's see whose heart gives out first." He rolled over and went to sleep. I lay there clutching my throbbing wrist, tears streaming silently into my hair. This wasn't a marriage, it was a hostage situation. But as I lay there listening to the monster snore, something shifted inside me. The fear was still there, yes, but the hope was gone. And when hope dies, there is nothing left to lose. He thought he had won. He thought violence and threats had silenced me. He didn't know that while he was shouting, I had seen something. When he stripped off his jeans and threw them on the floor, something had fallen out of his pocket. It had slid under the nightstand. I waited 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour. When his snoring was deep and regular, I slid out of bed. I moved like a ghost. I dropped to my knees beside the nightstand. I reached underneath. My fingers brushed against a small piece of paper. I pulled it out. It was a receipt from a jewellery store. Date, yesterday. Item, diamond tennis bracelet. Price, $4,500. I looked at my wrist. I wasn't wearing a tennis bracelet. He hadn't given me a gift when he arrived. He had bought a $4,500 bracelet for someone else in Toronto. And then I saw the other piece of paper. A small square business card stapled to the receipt. Dr. S. Miller, Obstetrics, Gynecology. Appointment reminder, Tuesday, 10 a.m. Patient name, Jessica. The world stopped spinning. Jessica, the ex-girlfriend. The one he swore on his mother's life was nobody. The one he said he hadn't spoken to in years. She was here in Toronto and he was buying her jewellery and she was seeing an OBGYN. There is only one reason you buy a woman a diamond bracelet and take her to an obstetrician. She was pregnant. I covered my mouth to stifle a scream. He wasn't just cheating. He was building a second family. He was living a double life in the same city. He had married me for my dowry, for my family's land, to fund his life with her. I looked at Mark sleeping soundly, the architect of my destruction. I looked at the receipt in my hand. This wasn't just evidence of cheating. cheating. This was the nuclear bomb. I crawled into the bathroom and locked the door. I sat on the cold tile, clutching the receipt to my chest. He had threatened my father. He had twisted my arm. He had treated me like garbage. But now I had the weapon that would cut him deeper than any divorce paper. He had a secret baby on the way, and I knew exactly where they were going to be on Tuesday at 10 a.m. I wiped my tears. My reflection in the mirror looked different, harder, darker. You want to play games, Mark? I whispered to the glass. Let's play. I wasn't going to hide anymore. I was going to crash the party. Tuesday morning, 9:45 a.m. I sat in my car parked across the street from the medical centre. The engine was off, but my hands were gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles had turned white. The heater was running, but I was shivering. It was a grey, overcast day in Toronto, the kind of day where the sky feels low and heavy, pressing down on the city like a wet wool blanket. I adjusted my sunglasses. I was wearing a hoodie and a baseball cap pulled low. I felt ridiculous, like a character in a bad spy movie, but the nausea rolling in my stomach was very real. I was waiting for the confirmation of my own destruction. At 9:58 a.m, a black Mercedes pulled into the lot. I knew that car. It was the rental Mark had picked up 2 days ago. My breath hitched. I watched as the driver's door opened. Mark stepped out. He was wearing a suit, the blue one I had ironed for him before he left for Dubai months ago. He looked sharp, respectable, the picture of a doting partner. He walked around the car and opened the passenger door, and there she was, Jessica. I had only seen her in Facebook photos from 5 years ago. She looked different now, older, softer. Her hair was cut short. She stepped out of the car and Mark immediately offered his hand. She took it, and then I saw it, glinting in the dull morning light wrapped around her wrist. The diamond tennis bracelet, the $4,500 business expense. Seeing the receipt was one thing. Seeing it on her skin was another. It was a physical blow. It was him claiming her. It was him saying, "You are the one who deserves diamonds. Sneha is just the one who pays for them." But that wasn't the part that made the bile rise in my throat. It was the way she walked, one hand on Mark's arm, the other resting protectively over her stomach. She wasn't showing yet, not much, but the gesture was unmistakable. It was the universal language of motherhood. They walked towards the clinic entrance. Mark leaned in and whispered something to her. She laughed, a free, happy sound that carried across the parking lot. He kissed her forehead. He had never kissed my forehead. Not once. He kissed me for photos. He kissed me to shut me up, but he kissed her to comfort her. I watched them disappear through the sliding glass doors of a Dr. S. Miller obstetrics. I didn't storm in. I didn't scream. I just sat there encased in my metal box, feeling the last remnants of my denial shatter into dust. He wasn't just cheating. He was replacing me. No, worse. I was the placeholder. I was the bank account he drained while he built a family with the woman he actually loved. I started the car. I didn't drive home. I drove to the suburbs, to Brampton, to his parents' house. And Mark's parents were the pillars of the community. His father was a retired engineer. His mother was on every charity board at the local temple. They were the ones who had come to my house, eaten my mother's food and praised my good character. They were the ones who promised my father they would treat me like a daughter. I needed to believe that they didn't know. I needed to believe that Mark was the black sheep, fooling them just as he had fooled me, because if they knew, if they were part of this, then the world was truly a dark, godless place. I pulled into their driveway. My heart was pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I rang the doorbell. His mother, Mrs. Sharma, opened the door. She looked surprised, her eyes darting to my car to see if Mark was with me. "Sneha," she said, a tight smile plastering onto her face. "Beta, we weren't expecting you. Is Mark with you?" "No," I said, my voice trembling. "I need to talk to you, both of you. It's an emergency." She ushered me in. The house smelled of incense and cardamom tea. It was so peaceful, so normal. It made me want to scream. We sat in the formal living room. His father put down his newspaper and looked at me over his reading glasses. "What is the matter, child?" he asked. "You look pale." I took a deep breath. I opened my bag and pulled out the iPad. "I know," I said. "Know what?" his mother asked, her hand pausing mid-pour over the teapot. I know about Jessica, I said. I know about the escorts in Dubai. I know about the money he's stealing from us, and I know she's pregnant. The silence that followed was absolute. I expected shock. I expected gasp. I expected his mother to drop the teapot. But the teapot didn't drop. She set it down gently on the coaster. She didn't look at his father. She didn't look at me. She smoothed the pleats of her sari. Mark is a man, she said finally. Her voice was calm, conversation. I blinked. Excuse me? Here's a man, Sneha, she repeated, looking up at me with eyes that were as cold as the glass. Men have needs. They have appetites. He is working very hard in a foreign country, all alone. Sometimes they lose their way. It is a wife's duty to bring them back, spy on them. My mouth fell open. He is sleeping with prostitutes. He got his ex-girlfriend pregnant. He is buying her diamonds with my money. And whose fault is that? His father chimed in. His voice wasn't gentle anymore. It was stern. If you were with him in Dubai, if you were fulfilling your duties, maybe he wouldn't look elsewhere. You insisted on finishing your degree here. You left him lonely. I felt like the room was spinning. I didn't leave him. He wouldn't take me, I shouted, standing up. He told me it was too expensive. He lied to me. Lower your voice, his mother snapped. The neighbours. I don't care about the neighbours, I screamed. Do you hear me? He has another family. He's having a baby with Jessica. His mother sighed, as if I were a toddler throwing a tantrum over a broken toy. We know about Jessica, she said. The world stopped. You know, she is a nice girl, his mother said, casually picking up her teacup, but she is not from a suitable background. Her family has no status, no land. We told Mark he could not marry her. We told him he needed a wife with a good name, someone who could present well in society, someone with a dowry, I whispered. The realization hit me like a physical slap. You wanted my father's money. You wanted my reputation. We wanted the best for our son, she said, shrugging. And now, well, mistakes happen. If Jessica is having a baby, we will support the child. It is our blood. But you remain the wife, you have the title, you have the ring. Why are you making such a fuss? I looked from his mother to his father. There was no shame in their faces, only annoyance. They looked at me not as a victim, but as a problem, a glitch in their perfectly calculated business plan. They had orchestrated this. They knew he loved Jessica. They knew he was unstable, but they needed a clean girl to wash their son's reputation and a rich girl to fund his lifestyle. I was the livestock they had purchased to keep the farm running. You are monsters, I said, my voice shaking. You are all monsters. We are practical, his father said, standing up. Now listen to me, Sneha. You will go home. You will cook dinner for your husband. You will stop this nonsense about divorce. If you leave him, who will marry you? A divorced woman? Damaged goods? You will bring shame to your sick father. Do you want to kill him? There it was again. The weaponization of my father. Mark called us this morning, his mother added, sipping her tea. He told us you were acting hysterical. He said you were threatening to blackmail him. We are very disappointed in you, Sneha. We thought you were a good girl. Mark called you? Of course, he is our son. I grabbed my iPad and backed away toward the door. I'm leaving. I'm going to the police. I'm going to tell everyone. His father laughed. It was a dry, rasping sound. The police? For what? Cheating is not a crime in Canada. Being a bad husband is not a crime. And if you tell people, well, we have stories too. We can say you were the one cheating. We can say you refused to sleep with him. Who will society believe? The grieving parents or the crazy young wife? I turned and ran. I ran out the door, down the driveway and into my car. I locked the doors, my hands shaking so hard I could barely get the key in the ignition. They were right. Legally, I was stuck. Socially, I was trapped. They had the narrative. They had the power. I drove blindly. Tears blurred my vision. I couldn't go back to the apartment. Mark would be there. He would know I went to his parents. He would be furious. But I had nowhere else to go. My father was in a hospital bed back home. My friends were all mutual friends with Mark. I was alone in a city of 3 million people. I drove for hours. Finally, exhaustion took over. I pulled into the parking garage of our building. Maybe he wasn't home. Maybe he was with Jessica. I took the elevator up, my keys clutched in my hand like a weapon. I opened the apartment door quietly. It was dark. Sneha, the voice came from the living room. Mark was sitting in the armchair facing the door. He wasn't drinking. He wasn't watching TV. He was just sitting there waiting, and he wasn't alone. 2 other men were sitting on the sofa. I recognised them. His cousin, the enforcers. I froze in the doorway. Come in, babe, Mark said, his voice terrifyingly calm. Mum called. Said you had a nice chat. I took a step back, reached the doorknob. Don't, one of the cousins said, standing up. He was big, intimidating. It just come inside, Sneha. We need to have a family meeting. I'm not coming in, I said. I'm leaving. You're not going anywhere, Mark said, standing up. You have my car, you have my laptop, and apparently you have some files that belong to me. He walked toward me. I saw the look in his eyes. It wasn't the look of a husband. It was the look of a man who needed to plug a leak. Give me the iPad, Sneha, he said, holding out his hand. No, give it to me. It's my evidence, I screamed fire. He lunged. I tried to turn to run back into the hallway, but the cousin was faster. He grabbed my arm and yanked me inside, and the door slammed shut behind me. The lock clicked. I was trapped. Mark ripped the bag off my shoulder. He pulled out the iPad and threw it onto the couch. You think you're smart, he spat, stepping into my personal space. You think you can go to my parents and tattle on me. They are my parents, Sneha. They built me. You are nothing. He grabbed my face, squeezing my jaw until it hurt. You are going to delete everything, he hissed. You are going to log into your cloud right now and you are going to wipe every screenshot, every video, every chat, and then you are going to record a video for me. A video where you admit that you're mentally unstable and that you made it all up. I will never do that, I managed to say through his grip. Oh, you will, he smiled. It was a cruel, dead smile. Because if you don't, I'm going to call your father right now and I'm going to tell him that his daughter has been sleeping with men for money in Toronto. I have photos too, Sneha. Photos Hop is a wonderful tool. I'll send them to him. How long do you think his heart will last after seeing his little princess in a compromising position? I stared at him. This was pure evil. He was willing to kill my father to save his own skin. You have 5 minutes, Mark said, releasing my face and shoving me toward the laptop on the table. Delete the evidence or say goodbye to your dad. He sat back down, crossing his arms. The cousin stood by the door, blocking the exit. I walked to the laptop. My hands were numb. My mind was racing. Delete it, save my father, live as a prisoner. Or I looked at the laptop screen. I looked at the iPad on the couch. I looked at Mark gloating in his victory. He thought he had checkmated me. He thought fear was the ultimate controller. But he forgot one thing. When you corner a scared animal, when you take away every exit, every hope and every safety net, the animal stops being scared and it starts being dangerous. I typed in my password. Good girl, Mark sneered. I didn't open the delete menu. I opened my email. I had one draft saved, a draft addressed to the Immigration Bureau of Canada. Subject, marriage fraud and solicitation. Attached, the zip file. I hovered the mouse over the send button. I looked at Mark. Mark, I said softly. What? He barked. You swore on your mother's life, didn't you? Just delete it. You swore on her life, I repeated, so let's see if she survives this. I clicked send. The click of the mouse was the loudest sound in the world. Message sent. For a heartbeat, the room was suspended in time. Mark stood frozen, his eyes locked on the screen, trying to comprehend what I'd just done. The cousin shifted uneasily by the door, sensing the shift in atmospheric pressure. Then the bomb detonated. What did you do? Mark whispered. His voice wasn't human. It was a low, guttural growl. I reported you, I said, standing up. My legs were shaking, but my voice was steady. Immigration, the fraud department, and I CC'd your employer in Dubai and your parents' community centre board. Mark's face went white, then a violent shade of purple. The veins in his neck bulged like cord. You bitch! He lunged. This wasn't a shove. This wasn't a grab. This was an attempt to erase me. He flew across the coffee table, knocking it over, his hands reaching for my throat. I didn't scream. I didn't freeze. I reacted with the primal instinct of a cornered animal. I grabbed the heavy ceramic lamp from the side table and swung it. Crash! The base of the lamp connected with his shoulder, shattering on impact. Mark howled in pain, stumbling back, clutching his arm. Grab her! He screamed at the cousins. Don't let her leave. She ruined everything. The big cousin took a step forward, but he hesitated. He looked at the shattered lamp. He looked at the laptop screen that still displayed message sent. And then he looked at me. I was holding a jagged shard of the ceramic base. I pointed it direct with his shoulder, shattering on impact. Mark howled in pain, stumbling back, clutching his arm. Grab her! He screamed at the cousins. Don't let her leave. She ruined everything. The big cousin took a step forward, but he hesitated. He looked at the shattered lamp. He looked at the laptop screen that still displayed message sent. And then he looked at me. I was holding a jagged shard of the ceramic base. I pointed it directly at him. "Touch me," I hissed, "and I swear to God you'll be deported in a body bag." The cousin stopped. He wasn't a killer. He was a bully. And bullies are terrified of victims who fight back. "Mark, let her go," the cousin muttered, backing up. "It's over, man. She sent it. If we hurt her now, it's murder. We'll go to jail for life." "I don't care," Mark roared, his eyes wild, darting around the room for a weapon. "She destroyed my life. She destroyed my visa." "You destroyed yourself," I shouted back. I didn't wait for his rebuttal. I saw my opening. I sprinted toward the door. The second cousin, the smaller one, stood in my way. I didn't slow down. I ran straight at him, screaming at the top of my lungs, "Fire! Help! Fire!" Panic is contagious. The cousin flinched, stepping aside instinctively to avoid the collision. I slammed into the door, fumbling with the lock. Click. I threw the door open and tumbled into the hallway. "Get back here!" Mark screamed from inside the apartment. I heard him scrambling over the broken furniture. I didn't look back. I ran down the long, carpeted hallway, pounding on neighbours' doors as I passed. "Call the police! He's trying to kill me! Call 911! Door started to open. Heads popped out. An elderly woman down the hall stepped out, phone in hand. "I'm calling, honey! Come inside!" she yelled. I heard Mark burst into the hallway behind me, but when he saw the neighbours' witnesses, he stopped. He stood there panting, clutching his injured shoulder. His eyes met mine one last time. There was no love left, no hate even, just the hollow, terrifying realisation that his mask had finally slipped off in public. I rushed into the neighbour's apartment and she slammed the door shut, locking it. I slid down the wall to the floor, gasping for air, tears finally streaming down my face. I was safe, but the war wasn't over. The next 48 hours were a blur of flashing lights, statements and lawyers. The police arrived within minutes. Mark had fled the scene before they got there, but the damage was done. They took my statement. They saw the bruises on my wrist from the night before. They took photos of the shattered apartment. I gave them everything, the iPad, the hard drive with the archive of sin, the GPS logs. I didn't go back to the apartment. I stayed in a women's shelter for 2 nights, refusing to turn on my phone. I knew what was waiting for me. Hundreds of missed calls, threats from his family, guilting from my relatives. But on the 3rd day I turned it on. I ignored the texts from Mark. "Baby, please, we can fix this," turning into "I'll kill you." I dialed the one number I was most afraid of. "Hello?" My father's voice was weak, raspy. "Baba," I whispered. "Sneha, where have you been? Mark's mother called. She said terrible things. She said you ran away with a man. She said you are mentally ill." I closed my eyes. They had tried to get ahead of the story. They had tried to execute the threat. "Baba," I said, my voice strong, "listen to me carefully. They are lying. Mark is a criminal. He has been abusing me. He has been stealing from us, and he has another woman here who is pregnant." There was silence on the other end, a long, terrifying silence. I waited for the sound of his heart monitor beeping, for the sound of him collapsing. "Is this true?" he asked finally. His voice wasn't angry. It was incredibly sad. "I have the proof, Baba. I sent it to the police. I am divorcing him." I held my breath. In our culture, a daughter returning home alone is a burden, a shame. "Sneha," my father said, "come home. If he touched a hair on your head, he is dead to us. Do you hear me? You are my daughter, not his property." I broke down. Sobs racked my body, raw and guttural. The one weapon Mark had, my fear of my father's rejection, was a dud. My father chose me. 2 weeks later, I sat in a sterile office at the Immigration and Refugee Board. The officer across from me was reviewing a stack of papers, my archive. "This is extensive," the officer said, adjusting her glasses. "I wanted to be thorough," I said. "Well, Mrs. Sneha," she said, looking up, "based on the evidence of solicitation, the undeclared dependents, the pregnant partner you identified, and the financial fraud, Mr. Mark's permanent residency application has been flagged for immediate review. Given the domestic violence report filed by the Toronto police, his visa effect revoked." "Where is he?" I asked. "He tried to board a flight to Dubai yesterday using an emergency exit visa," she said. "He's gone. If he tries to re-enter Canada, he will be arrested." He ran. Of course he ran. He was a coward to the end. He left his dream life. He left his car. He left his debts. "And Jessica," I asked. The officer hesitated. We can't discuss other individuals, but let's just say she is cooperating with us. It seems she didn't know about you either, or at least not the full extent. I walked out of the government building into the cool autumn air of Toronto. The sky was a brilliant, piercing blue. The leaves on the trees were turning gold and red. It was beautiful. I walked to the lakefront. I sat on a bench looking out at the water. My phone buzzed. A notification from Facebook. Memory 2 years ago engaged. A photo of me and Mark smiling. The ring glistening on my finger. I looked at the girl in the photo. She looked so young, so hopeful. She thought she had won the lottery. She didn't know she was signing a deal with the devil. I deleted the photo. Then I opened my gallery. I went to the folder named Evident. I selected all. Delete! Are you sure you want to permanently delete these items? I hesitated for a second. This archive had been my life for the last month. It had been my obsession, my nightmare, and ultimately my saviour. But I didn't need it anymore. I knew who I was. I wasn't a victim. I wasn't a divorced woman. I wasn't damaged goods. I was the girl who walked into the fire and came out holding the match. I clicked yes. The screen cleared, empty. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with the cold, clean air. I was alone. I had no husband. I had uncertain finances. I had a long legal battle ahead for the formal divorce. But for the first time in 2 years, the person sitting on this bench belonged entirely to me. I stood up, adjusted my coat and started walking. Not running, walking. I had a degree to use. I had a life to build. And somewhere out there was a version of Sneha who was going to be happier, stronger and wiser than the girl Mark tried to break. He thought I was an investment. He was wrong. I was a revolution.